evening. Welcome to my channel, True Crime and Jess. Thank you for joining me this evening. And like my last video, which was the Ellie Mae Butler story, which concentrated it from a show called Faking It Tears of a Crime, I'd like to do another story from that show, and that's the Shannon Matthews story. And that goes back to February of 2008, and it's obviously still winter, it's still very cold, it's early evening, and there's a phone call made to the emergency services. It's a lady called Karen Matthews, and she's reporting her daughter missing. And what alerted the police and made it not a red flag was the fact that Shannon Matthews is only 9. She's never gone missing before. She hasn't been seen since she left for school that morning. All her friends have been contacted, family members, they've been called. And so the police are treating it, really urgent. They're out to the house, they're getting statements. Karen Matthews herself is distraught, as you'd imagine. You haven't seen your daughter since that morning. Oh, you can't imagine it. So the following evening, the press had descended upon, it's in West Yorkshire, Dewsbury, and it's where Karen Matthews lives, is the Dewsbury estate. And the press descend ran Karen Matthews' home, which she shares with Craig Meehan, a partner, he's not Shannon's dad, he's her stepdad. But I think he's Karen's youngest child's dad. Shannon's got a few siblings. So the press descends, they're all outside their home, and Karen comes out, and she just looks distraught. She really does. She's got red-rimmed eyes, hair scragged back. She's literally begging, the public, please help. I just want my daughter back. She says a line, I want my please give me a beautiful princess daughter back. So even though the public's hearts, were going out to Shannon Matthews and desperate to hear that she gets home, collectively your heart went out to Karen as well, because, as a parent, or even if you weren't, I wasn't a parent at the time, and my heart went out to her. You can't imagine how she felt or what she was going through. So it becomes a huge hunt for her. There's 300 police officers involved. They're looking in lakes, they're looking in woodlands, they're looking everywhere for this little girl. £3 million was spent looking for this little girl. It's the biggest hunt in 30 years, and they need to keep the public interest, they need to keep Shannon in the public eye. So after 14 days, she's still not come back. Like I say, the Dewsbury estate, very close-knit community. They've been doing vigils and searches themselves, and Karen had 2 very good friends on the estate. She had Julie Bushby and her friend and neighbour Natalie Brown, and they were integral at getting leaflets printed, t-shirts done, flyers out there. They set up an office at the top of the estate, where people could go, where they could organise searches. Really, really close-knit community, doing everything they could to get this little girl home. So the police thought, let's get Karen in. It's been 14 days. Get the public's mind still on this case and do a press conference. So Karen comes in, and she wasn't what I suppose you'd expect. The night after Shannon went missing, she was, like I say, red-rimmed eyes, she was very drawn. And after 14 days and nights in winter, missing your little girl, you would imagine that you wouldn't be eating, you wouldn't be sleeping, you'd look awful. No, her hair was done, as much as Karen Matthews' hair can be done. I'll put a link in the bottom, you'll see what I mean. But her hair was done, the red rims on. Although there was, her eyes were still a bit red, she just didn't look like what you would think she would look like after 14 days of being in this prison of anguish, waiting for news on your daughter. And some of the things she said in the press conference as well were a bit odd. She stated that perhaps Shannon knew the person who'd taken her, and maybe that person knew her as well. Just very odd, cryptic things that she said. And like I say, in this show, there's 3 experts, Faking It Tears for God. There's 3 experts, and they're very, very good. And the listener, who's a lady on there, and she deals with linguistics, etc. Her name is Dawn Archer, and she picks that apart as well, why Karen says certain things in the press conference that just don't make sense. And Cliff Lansley, he's the watcher, and he takes in people's movements and their body language. He spots quite a few things in that press conference as well. So it wasn't just the press people there just questioning an innocent mother. There was things she did that warranted that. At the same time, though, who is to say how you should behave when your daughter's been missing 14 days? Who's anyone to comment on that? Now, while this was going on, there was a reporter that built a really good rapport with Karen and her friends Julie and Natalie, and he was there every day. Obviously there at the press conference, he's seen her on camera how she was behaving, but he also got to see her off camera, and her behaviour was even weirder off camera. They were all in Karen's home the one evening. Like, her house was always very busy with friends and family coming in, trying to help with searching for Shannon, etc. So they were all sat there the one evening, the news came on, and Karen's phone call came on the news where she'd been reporting Shannon missing, and she got upset watching this. Then at the end of the report, a photo come up of Shannon, and she was a very pretty girl, big green eyes, dark hair, infamous photo now. It was everywhere at the time. And she stops crying, Karen does, looks at the screen and says, "Oh, look, Shannon's famous." She's not famous, she's missing. Really odd. And then she was in the chip shop one time, and she'd got her fish and chip dinner. Shannon did have siblings. There would have had to have been some normality for them. So she was getting their dinner at the chip shop, and the manager come out and says, "Yeah, I'll come and look on the house." And as she's leaving, she's heard saying to her friends, "Oh, I should have another kid go missing, get free fish and chips." And then the reporter I just mentioned, he came into the house the one day. It was unusually quiet. And as he said, "Hello, is anyone here?" she jumps out behind him, grabs him by his waist and shouts, "Boo. Your daughter's missing, you playing games with a reporter." It's just very odd behaviour, very, very odd behaviour of someone who should have been in shock at the very least. It just very, very odd behaviour. She confused everyone around her. Julie Bushby, having invested so much time into trying to find Shannon and organising everybody and putting her own life on hold. I don't think she wanted to believe there was anything suspicious about Karen, but Natalie Brown, she was quite vocal about, look, she's not acting right. There's something going on here. But 24 days later, nearly 3.5 weeks, Shannon Matthews is found. She's found alive and well. And there's a really lovely bit on the show, Faking It Tears for God, where the reporter, obviously Karen would have known Shannon's been found at this point, but the reporter phones Julie Bushby, and it just happens to be in real time on camera on a news report. She answers the phone, screams down the phone, "Is it true?" And he confirms, yeah, Shannon's alive and well, she's been found. And, you know, she starts cheering, the whole community cheers, there's a street party, there's champagne. You know, these people were just amazing. You wouldn't have wanted for a better community. So as the days go by, people are wondering, okay, where's Shannon? Where is she? Well, Shannon was actually found at the flat of a gentleman called Mick Donovan. When Mick Donovan is obviously arrested and brought in for questioning, obviously charged with kidnapping, but brought in and questioned, he says that he's the uncle of Craig Meehan, Karen's partner, and him and Karen have been having an affair for quite a while. Not only this, Karen was behind Shannon's abduction or Shannon going missing. She was behind the whole thing. Him and her came up with the elaborate plan and the very clever plan, not, of kidnapping, faking her kidnap to get the reward money. Now, 6 months prior to this happening in 2008, so it would have been, I think it was August 2007, Madeleine McCann went missing. And as we know, there was a huge reward offered. And, you know, in their great thinking, they thought, hang on a minute, what if we pretend, you know, Karen in her mind, I'll pretend my kid's gone missing and we'll claim the reward money. So, it's just, at the moment, though, they've got no proof. They've got no proof that Karen's involved. So knowing that Julie Bushby is obviously very close to her and Natalie Brown's suspicious, they arrange a meeting between these two ladies and Karen. She comes in an unmarked car, not far off the estate, Julie Bushby and Natalie Brown in another car. They go into Karen's car and Natalie, wasting no time, asks her straight away, did you have anything to do with it? And I think even though she had suspicions, even she was shocked when Karen turned around straight away and says, yeah, I knew where she was the whole time. Natalie was apparently very shocked and Julie was devastated. She put her whole life on hold. You know, I don't think she's ever got over it either, because there's been a more current interview with Julie Bushby and she still questions why. Why did she do it? Why did she lie? Why did she do any of what she did? You know, she doesn't believe it could only be for the reward money, which personally I do. She thinks there must have been another party involved, because Mick and Karen were too docile and easily led to have come up with this on their own. Now, I was inclined to believe it back when I first heard about this and it all came out, because there were so many twists and turns to this story, because I thought Shannon perhaps was aware of what was going on. You know, only as a 9-year-old could be, but it was kind of like, this can be mine and your secret, you know, between her and Karen. And if you stay quiet, I don't know, I'll take you to Disneyland when I come back and get, you know, kind of making it a game for her. That's what I thought. So I suppose it would be easy to think, well, you know, if that was their thinking, someone's put them up to it, you know, they're not quite right. But that wasn't the case. Karen brought her to Mick Donovan's the morning that she supposedly left for school, when she was reported missing that evening, and gave her a list of do's and don'ts that were found when they found Shannon. You know, don't go to the windows, don't go near the door, the telly has to be at a certain number. Basically, a prisoner, because Mick had tethered a rope from the loft, which was only long enough, I think, for the hall and the bedroom. So she was tied up. She was given very, very strong prescription drugs to keep her sedated and docile. She was drugged. She was kidnapped and drugged by her mother. That's what happened. That's the darker side of this story. So it was all very well thinking, you know, you plonk her. How did you think you were going to get away with that? You know, scamming 50 grand out of the paper. But it was so much darker than that. It really was, which then kind of screams to me that she wasn't as daft and easily led as that was made out. I don't think she was. You know, these do's and don'ts were in Karen's handwriting. You know, and the police did say as well when they got Shannon that they possibly believed that had it been left any, like, you know, if they hadn't found her when they did, Mick Donovan might have killed her. I don't know where that comes from, whether Mick says that was something that had been discussed. I don't know, but I do know in the show it quotes that a police officer or superintendent did say, you know, he thought much longer and it would have been a very different outcome. So back to the court case of Karen and Mick. They were charged with, both were charged with kidnap, perverting the course of justice, and false imprisonment. They were both charged with that. That's what they went to court for. In court, it was also, because by this point, Karen had denied the confession by now, saying she didn't have anything to do with it after all. That's what I mean. Is she as dopey as she thinks, you know? But the prosecution were able to prove, you know, she's changed her story 5 times since she was arrested. You know, this woman can't be believed for anything. They put, you know, Mick Donovan had already thrown her under the bus. You know, so they both got 8 years. 8 years. Lovely. But they didn't even do that. Karen done 4 and Mick done 3. So Karen was actually out in 2012. And, you know, she still goes by the name of Karen Matthews. You know, she's still going about her life. It's just such a shocking story. And, you know, what this poor girl went through. But the only silver lining, hopefully, is that she did go on to be adopted, and the silver lining is hopefully she's gone on to lead a much, much better life than she ever would have with that woman. Ever would have. And her siblings as well. I believe they've been adopted too. You don't hear much about them. You don't hear their names. Again, I hope they've gone on to live a much better life than they ever would have with that woman. I mean, like she said in the tube shop, she'll have another kid go missing. Just no conscience at all. No empathy for her daughter, you know, tied up and drugged. No, she was 9 years old. You know, they had just a relationship. Just so you can't get your mind around that. You can't get your mind around what must have been going on in her head. And I think that's the problem for Julie Bushby. You know, people think she's not daft, but, you know, why can't she let it go? Well, you can understand why, because she still doesn't get it. She still doesn't. She thinks something's been missed. She still wants to believe that Karen wasn't behind all this and she isn't that nasty person that everyone quite rightly believes she is. I think so anyway. I'd love to know your opinions on it. I thought it'd be a hard one until obviously I found out exactly what was done to Shannon when she was kidnapped. You know, and it seems pretty black and white now. Karen was just a vile, vile woman. And Mick Donovan, obviously, you know, I'm not negating him out of it, but Karen was her mum. She was her mother. You're supposed to protect your child. And to go on camera quite brazenly and beg for people's help and sit there with a teddy bear on your shoulder, pleading for the safe return of your daughter, knowing where she is, you know, that takes some guts, that does, you know. Like I say, very ballsy people on this show. So thank you for joining me for a True Crime with Jess Rose. And yeah, the next story I'd like to do in my next video would be Tia Sharp. Not the same ending as Shannon Matthews, unfortunately. This was a case that happened in 2012, also shown on Faking It Tears of a Crime. And I'll be talking about that next time. Please, any comments of any shows you'd like me to look at with you, or anything you'd like to discuss about my video this evening, please pop in the comments. And thank you again for joining me. I'll see you soon. Thank you.